What's up, everybody? We are getting you ready for fantasy football season. Today we're going to be looking at the quarterback position. Before we start, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I hope you will do that. We are nearing football season. You're thinking, well, it's a couple months away. Fantasy football season has started. Drafts are getting underway. Have a lot of rankings and mock drafts going on right now. So we're going to look at the quarterback position today. Starting off right at the top with my number one guy, Patrick Mahomes. He is year in and year out my number one from here on out, and barring anything drastic changing, he's going to be my number one quarterback. I was high on him coming out of Texas Tech. That's one thing I can brag about. I can say I was right about Patrick Mahomes. I do have him ahead of Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar Jackson's going to have a little bit of a regression this year just because last year defensive coordinators were totally confused. They had no clue, really what Lamar could do at the NFL level. We haven't seen, maybe since Michael Vick, someone who could run this effectively. I think another year of defensive coordinators and head coaches being able to study tape on Jackson, I think that the league will catch up to him a tiny bit. I think he'll still be have a really good year, but he is my number two behind Patrick Mahomes. I think Mahomes is your MVP favorite this year. They brought in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They still have a great group of wide receivers. And, of course, they have Travis Kelce, who's arguably the best tight end in the game. So he definitely has plenty of weapons. And Lamar, really what he does, he gets a lot of his points on the ground. We'll see if he can develop more as a passer. If he can, he definitely has the potential to be the number one quarterback. But for right now, I'm going to stick with Mahomes as my number one quarterback. After that, I do think there's a big drop-off. I'm not one this year who is begging to go for a quarterback in the middle of the draft. My number three is actually Kyler Murray right now. I really like him. I think if you can get him in the 5th or 6th round, that's pretty good value. Bringing in DeAndre Hopkins, only going to help him. Kenyon Drake really seemed to hit his stride with Arizona last year. I think he's finally found a system that fits what he wants to do. Look, I think Kyler Murray is put in a position to succeed. Josh Jones, they brought in an offensive tackle. They needed help on the offensive line. And, of course, Kyler's also going to get you points as a runner. So I think he has QB3, maybe even QB2 potential this year overall, not on a team. I think if you can get him in the 6th round, that's a really good buy. But he's kind of in that same tier with Russell Wilson, who is in a run-heavy offense, and I just never know what to think of Seattle and stuff. I like Russell Wilson, but something about their offense and stuff, they never excite me. So I'm never super high on Russell Wilson to start off the year. He always proves me wrong. But if you can get him 6th round, I guess that's decent value. But I wouldn't go any higher than that, just because I think the quarterback position is pretty deep. Then you have Dak Prescott, who I think is going to have actually a pretty good year. And when you look at the Dallas Cowboys offense, you see what they did bringing in CeeDee Lamb, which was kind of a surprise pick. Nobody thought he'd really fall that far. And when he did, people were still surprised that the Cowboys would go for a receiver. They have Michael Gallup and Amari Cooper already. It was a little bit of a surprise pick, but I think that Dak has all the weapons around him to succeed. He still has a pretty good offensive line, but I don't think it's going to be as effective of a run-blocking offensive line. So if you're in the 1st round, wondering whether to take Ezekiel Elliott or maybe Alvin Kamara or Michael Thomas, I would go for either Kamara or Thomas just because under Mike McCarthy, teams have not been able to run the ball. The Packers only finished, I think, top 10 once in Mike McCarthy's tenure in running the football. So I would actually be a little bit hesitant to draft Ezekiel Elliott just because they have all these weapons in the pass game, and I remember I had Eddie Lacy on my team several of the years when he was one of the top fantasy running backs, or was supposed to be anyways, and they never gave him the ball. He was getting 8 to 10 carries a game, and that was the only time they were running the ball. So I don't trust a Mike McCarthy offense, to be honest with you, but if anyone's going to be better by it, it's going to be Dak Prescott. And I haven't been a Dak Prescott fan really any of the years that he's been in the league, but I think he will have at least a solid year. I think you're getting a high floor with him just because he's going to get you points running the ball. Plus, he has all the weapons now to succeed. After that, you have Shawn Watson, who lost DeAndre Hopkins. We'll see what happens there. He still has Brandon Cooks, Will Fuller. Kenny Stills. But he doesn't have anyone in the red zone that can really win. I mean, you have Darren Fells, I guess, Jordan Akins, but you don't really have anyone there that can consistently win in the red zone and win on 50-50 balls. So I'm a little bit hesitant on Watson just because I haven't seen the offensive line improve. And Bill O'Brien, I don't have any trust in him really anymore with his offense. We'll see if David Johnson can return to his form of a few years ago. But I'm not super excited about the Texans. I think that both the Colts and the Titans are a better team than they are, to be honest with you. I think at the end of the year, as long as Phillip Rivers doesn't continue to regress, if he can at least play decent, I think the Texans are a third-place team. I really do. I just don't think they're that good this year. Watson will still be solid if he can stay healthy, but he's my QB6. He could maybe, maybe I'll gain a little bit more confidence as we get closer to the draft, but I don't see him going anywhere above QB5 for me, and he shouldn't be any higher than that for you either. After that, then you're getting into the probably rounds 8 to 10. That's where I think you're getting some pretty good value. Josh Allen is a guy that I liked last year. He had a good year. I really think he's going to take another step forward this year. They brought in Stephon Diggs. They brought in Isaiah Hodgins and Gabriel Davis through the draft. They brought in Zach Moss as a running back, who I think is an upgrade from Devin Singletary. So I think they have the pieces around him. He's not the most accurate thrower. He probably never will be. But he has a huge arm, and he's going to get you points running the ball as well. We've been talking a lot about quarterbacks that get you points on the ground, and that's really the new NFL and the new fantasy football. You're trying to find guys that are going to get you points on the ground. So Josh Allen, I really think, is a good buy if you can get him around 9 or 10. Then after that, my next quarterback is actually Baker Mayfield. I think he's going to have a really good year. Maybe not quite to where he was 2 years ago and stuff. He still needs to work on cutting down the turnovers. We'll see what happens with Jarvis Landry and his injury that he's had. Odell Beckham, I've never been an Odell guy, so I never know what to expect with him. But I think the offensive line will be better. I think they should have taken Mekhi Becton in the draft instead of Jedrick Wills. But if Wills can hold down the left tackle position, I think with Jack Conklin at right tackle, I think the Browns' offense will be in a position for Baker to succeed, as well as the running backs Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Then to finish it out, we have Carson Wentz. I don't think Jalen Hurts really kills his draft stock any, but he can't stay healthy. He has a lot of new receivers this year. I'm only meh on the Eagles this year. Ben Roethlisberger, as a Steelers fan, of course, I'm excited to see what he is like coming off of an injury. I think that he's going to come back and he's going to make the other quarterbacks that the Steelers had last year look like garbage, which most quarterbacks would, to be honest. No offense to Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph, but I think Ben's going to come back and have a solid year. I'm not saying he's going to be MVP caliber or anything like that, but I think he does come in once we get into the receivers. Juju and Deontay Johnson are guys that I think could be solid value where they're being drafted right now. Matt Ryan, he has a lot of weapons on offense. We'll see what happens there. Tom Brady, same thing. I'm a little hesitant to buy into the Buccaneers just because of the new pieces and a shortened offseason. It's going to be more difficult for quarterbacks to gain rapport with the receivers. Aaron Rodgers, I'm not into this year. He's not happy with Matt LaFleur taking his successor, or Brian Gutekunst, the GM. Joe Burrow and Drew Locke are two guys that I think you should consider taking in the last couple rounds. They really are. I really like Drew Locke. They have good weapons there. They didn't fix the offensive line. I was hoping they'd get a left tackle, or even someone to play at kind of guard or center. They didn't really fix the offensive line very much. But I still think Drew Locke has all the weapons he needs to succeed, and he does have some athleticism. He can run the ball as well. And then Joe Burrow, we'll see what happens in Cincy. I think they're a 6-win team or so, but their defense is bad, so they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. So I would say buy into Joe Burrow as well as maybe a 15th, 16th round pick that could become fantasy gold for your team. So that's going to be all for today. Next time we'll look at the running back position. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe.